Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Sales Stratter. Hope you had an amazing weekend. This is the podcast with the mission of getting 10,000 reps to hit a million GP. I'm your co-host, Ryan Mohammed. With me, my main man, President and CEO of RGTX Logistics Solutions, Jeff Dickinson. How you doing this week, my brother?
Good, man. How about yourself? You have a great weekend?
Oh man, it was a football weekend, man. It was a lot of a lot of ups. It's snowing outside, death, taxes, and counting on the Dallas Cowboys choking. What more can you guarantee on, right? So.
I don't know. With that segue, come on, man. Let's do this and start the week off right.
To the HPLS podcast. Live, relevant, and high performance information, conversations, and education weekly.
God, like that one,
You
don't
like
you?
how I squeezed that one in there?
Yeah. I feel like you and I we're getting pretty good at this thing. Like this whole podcasting and hosting and all that stuff. We're getting pretty good. But yeah, let's do a little Monday morning quarterback, man, as we kind of ease into today's topic. But yeah, what'd you think of the games on the weekend, Jeff?
Oh my God! Well, I was 1 for 3. That's for sure. The only one that I picked that was right was San Francisco.
Mm.
But everybody else, man, they didn't even show. I mean, the Giants didn't show. The Bills fumbled, and I mean, I don't know. It was just a complete cluster.
So just
you
wait
know,
a second. Now that you're saying that you're 1 for 3, that means that you was it? Did you
one
take
one
Jackson?
for
Did you
four.
bet on the Jacksonville game
Oh
or?
yeah, 1 for 4. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
I
I was gonna
picked.
say. Oh,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
took Jacksonville.
I did.
Nah, I never bet against Mahomes, man. I know he's a little bit injured. Hopefully, he'll be good for.
That's just it. I mean, and the thing is, will I pick KC for the Super Bowl? Yeah, if Mahomes can play. I
Yes.
mean, his backup's not that bad. That's for sure. He played rather well, but man, that roll up on his ankle over that game, and that looked painful. I don't know.
It's looking pretty
There was a
brutal. And
lot of news this weekend, man. Did you see how many of those happened? I mean, if one guy's
what?
out.
You're
Yeah.
getting colder weather. Well, not in San Francisco, but it's like people are kind of getting into that, right? And they talk about that burnout, for like even basketball too, Jeff. Like we have 82 games, not we. They have 82 game season.
Yeah.
But when you kind of get into the playoffs after playing 82 games, and then you're getting into their best of 7 series for everyone, these guys get injured, man. It's a lot for them, and you gotta you gotta give props to these guys because like even for basketball, a lot of these guys will play in the summer for like their international their country. So it's like these guys are not taking breaks, and it just goes to show you, right? But for me, I enjoy the games. I love football. It's something that I get to enjoy. I'm if Mahomes is there, it's going to be Kansas City. And funny enough, one of my top customer, they're from Kansas City, so we were just texting throughout the whole game, and we're kind of going back and
Now we
forth,
know
right?
why you're leaning.
Yeah, exactly. I'm kind of trying to get some more loads, right? Not just
That's it.
from there. But Jeff, let's get into it.
Yeah.
So last week we had a great week in prospecting. All the kind of things that we both kind of do and different topics that we cover from there. This week is the focus. We're kind of giving you guys a linear projection, right? So this week we're going to be focusing on basically getting your first customer, getting your first load, going through that whole process. So with that being said, you've done all the prospecting and you're still doing it every day. But today you got a quote from your customer. All right, you got that quote, and just to read it and just to see how it goes. So you got that. You're on that list, or they send it to you privately. Jeff, give us your insights when you get that first quote.
Yeah. Is it your first quote? That's the way that I look at it. Do you want to approach it as your first quote? I think there's a lot more than just, going to that or just using your experience and your knowledge and being able to quote, that specific lane, rate per mile or however you want to go about it. See, I think to me, when I get that quote, it's a door opener. It's an opener for follow up questions, lead-ins, if you will, to try to get the gist of it. Is this customer just reaching out to you for this one and done kind of deal? What's the reason for them reaching out to you to quote? We know what the reason is, but what's the real reason behind them doing that? It could be a fishing expedition. It could be just many different things. So what I recommend, and again, we talk about the approaches, and it's very subjective. I would ask, other questions. What are the lanes you're shipping? What was the problem with this specific lane that you reached out to me for? Maybe he was in a bind, she was in a bind. Carrier fell off the load. It could be just many different things. What about you? I mean, what does it tell you? I mean, are you going? I think I know you. I don't think you're going to go right after the revenue right off the
No, no,
bat.
no, no. So
A lot of
this is
people,
the one thing. This is one of the many things that we agree
you
on.
see that, you
Yeah,
know.
that we agree on. So
What's
for
it?
for me, I look at that email. I look at that email first, and I kind of decide, does it have the main things in it? To, where, what, when, why,
Oh,
right? And if I don't have that, I recommend. I still do this to the day for like a brand new quote with a brand new customer. I'll call them. They sent that email. I'll call them right away because like they're more up there. It's like, hey, thank you so much for the quote. We're excited to work on this, and we'll get to it. I just got a couple questions, and that's where, like you said, you open up the door conversations with them. Frequency of this, is this a one-off? Did they when they're looking to move this? If they, and I know some people are different, but I kind of always ask, hey, do you guys have a budget in mind? What do you guys kind of, your prehistoric kind of like data and things like that, and just to kind of give you not necessarily to take you out of it, but to kind of understand, like, hey, am I going to be competitive on this, right? Am I going to have to do this? And going the
That's a big
conversation.
question, though. That's a really big question, because how do you know, Ryan, that they're not throwing out an arbitrary number?
You don't. But here's the thing.
That's the thing there.
Well, here's the thing, though. You're always going to still, for me, still, I still kind of want to know where it's kind of like, how do I put this here? I want to know where I need to get that dance with them. But hey, if I don't get that first dance, maybe I'll get the second dance. And that's the way that I kind of see it. It's like, okay, maybe I might be out of budget, or maybe I'll be under budget here, and we'll kind of go from there. But always give a price. But we'll talk about that later on in the show, because this is about kind of getting like your first quote. So those are the things I ask. I ask, hey, what's the urgency? How long are you moving this? What is the reason? Is this a special project? Is this something that runs year round? I found out those questions, and you don't want to be kind of interrogating. You still want to kind of show your personality about it. You don't want to kind of be like, hey, so what are you doing? Blah, blah, blah. No, you're going to have that conversation with them. And that's where you get to build rapport. Because prospecting, to me, you've booked that scheduled call with them. You've got to hear about their needs, their wants, and things like that. But this is where you truly get to know how they work, right? And they can spit different things to you. So I'm in agreement with you, Jeff. I definitely ask those questions. I want to find out what they're doing. The reason for the quote is kind of like the intention of my call.
Yeah, and here's where we agree to disagree. And I always laugh when I say this, is that for you, it probably came from a previous phone call, cold call, that you reached out to somebody and they took your name, your number, your email, however they reached out to you, right? And then 2 or 3 months later, they happen to reach out to Ryan, hey, can you help me, kind of deal, right? Now with me, since I don't make those kind of phone calls, and if I do, they're minuscule, right? I want to find out who recommended me, who.
So just sorry to interrupt you there, but like the mindset we're going from here is like somebody completely like hasn't done this before. So it's not you and I what we do. So it's like what they would do if like if Jeff,
so right. Yeah. So then I'll agree with you. And then when you're new into the industry, you're gonna figure that out. Because you're jumping into the seat and you're gonna start making phone calls. Hopefully, you have a good trainer that's kind of setting you up, and then as you grow into the business, you're going to find out that maybe cold calling is not the way to do it. You've got that knowledge, experience, and you're going to find another alternative way of getting revenue. So I'll agree with you with that. Those are the pertinent question that you have to. And then is it an LTL shipment? Is it a full truckload? Is it a reefer move? Is it a flatbed, expedited? Those are the questions that you have to ask to just explore. You're in that exploratory, new client, new engagement. How am I going to get more out of this person? So those are the trigger mechanisms for sure.
Yeah, and I love that you said that, especially with the mode of transport, figuring out exactly what you're doing. And one thing for me, Jeff, when I was kind of like brand new with companies, or if I go to another company, I talk to my lead. Like I'll obviously forward it over to my lead ops person as well, get their thoughts, right? Because let's say if you're going to be a cradle to, and we'll talk on both, if you're cradle to the grave or if you're salaried with a team or something like that, right? But you kind of want to figure out what's the lane, because I can send this over to my lead ops guy and he'll know right away. He'll know who to call, or he'll be like, hey, give John at ABC Trucking a call, see what he's kind of doing. And that's the relationships that they've kind of built.
Yep.
What kind of conversations are you having with your ops team once that first quote kind of comes in? And even with your boss, what would you recommend, Jeff?
Right. Well, first of all, if the prospect answered all of those questions, will the new person be able to respond quickly, or will they have to go to their boss and say, hey, I got a fish on the hook. This is what you're doing. This is my first load, whatever. What do you recommend? How do I go about this in the right way? I don't want to make a mistake. I don't want to lose my first one. I want to get it on the board, kind of deal, right? So you're going to ask, maybe you don't know the right questions to ask because you're new, right? So let's just get really wet behind the ears. If I was that person, I would probably go to my report to, or the person who hired me, put me in that seat and saying, I've got XYZ company on the line. They've got, a flatbed move going from, how do I get like the best rate? What I need to do to get that, that new customer on board side of thing. I think that's what I would do.
I love that, because and yourself being in that shoes as well. Managers are always the want to help, and they kind of get, I don't know, they can be having like a bad day, and once they kind of see the success of somebody else, and that's what a true manager loves anyways, right? The true success of serving others to get to their potential. And like, I've had all my managers like, yeah, let's get to it, let's sit down, let's talk about it, let's get through it. And just before you even have that conversation with like your manager or your ops, like you said, have all those conversations with the prospect first, right? Because like, I feel like I looked through a checklist. When I kind of do everything, when I was kind of new myself, I want to make sure that I didn't need to call the customer again to get clarification again. If I made that one call for clarification, that's it. Exactly. That's all we're gonna be doing. I'm not gonna call them again because I've already done that, unless they reach out to you or something like that, right?
Right.
And you're looking at the tools. Like you said, you've got all the details. So Jeff, you've gotten all your details. You've gotten it over to your manager and your lead ops guys. What do you recommend for, let's say, quoting itself, like having the conversation with the carriers?
If I was that person, remember, I said this a long time ago, there's no such thing as a stupid question in this industry, right? That's how everybody freaking learns. Well, at least I hope so. So I would think and hope that since this is the first load, the new client, that if I was the manager, I would sit down with that salesperson and critique everything. I know a long time ago we used to have two sets of headphones, and
yes, the splitters. I remember the splitters. Yeah,
the splitters, right? And that he or she would sit down next to you, and he would listen, and they would nod or don't do that or whatever, and try to help out. And then after the phone call, say, hey, what worked? What do you think that worked? And and the next thing you know, that person's going to start, like, I say, crying like a baby. You're going to say, that didn't sound right. Yeah, he was really up on that and all that. And you're going to remember that, in the beginning of any business or job that you have. You're going to crawl before you walk. You're going to walk before you run. And as time goes on, you start building that experience and that knowledge base. And what takes you 100 calls to get your first one will go down to about 85. And you'll start seeing progression on that. Again, that all comes from the interaction and the engagement with your report to, and whether or not he's engaged or she's engaged with you, and answering the questions that you have for them, because I would say that's like the top thing on helping a newbie become successful. I wouldn't say successful. I would say knowledgeable in what they're doing every single day. I mean, does that make sense?
I love that. I think that's perfect. It's kind of like that holding hand mechanism. And you made me laugh with the two headsets, because I remember we used to have those splitters, and then on the second headset, you could turn off the volume or turn up the volume. So I'd be like, hey, just put them on mute. Let me talk to you a bit, and then kind of go from there. And that's
also
what they kind of learn.
Too. I forgot to mention they record.
Yes. You got to record.
A long time ago, put the suction cup on the back of it, and they would record the whole thing. Then I wasn't in that position, but I was in that type of position, holding hands and stuff like that. And then say, hey, let's listen to the recording. What do you think worked? What do you think didn't work? Because that's all part of coaching and developing and setting that mindset for that new person sitting in that seat. You're just trying to, pump them up, right? You're in sales. You want everything. You want to pump that person up because it's tough.
It's
tough.
a momentum game, man. It's that mindset is momentum.
You want to roll with the punches, man. You want to roll with those punches. You're going to be knocked out a lot.
Yep, you're gonna be knocked down, but you gotta get up. And just want to say good morning to Lisa. Lisa, she's back. She's back from Rwanda. So happy to have her back on the show. For me, Jeff, I want to kind of ask you. I'll give my thoughts, and I'd love to get your thoughts as well. Is when you're having those carrier calls, let's say you've already posted it. We won't get into the intricacies of posting stuff and things like that. Those are simple things that you can learn there. But you've posted your load on the load board, and you've gotten like your first call. What are some do's and don'ts of speaking with carriers while your manager is there? For me, I don't know. I think it's an integrity thing. Don't be honest about everything. Don't say that, hey, I've got a load today when you know that's probably going to be moved Friday. And I don't know. I'm kind of, people always there's a difference between truck in hand versus a quote, right? I don't like to get the truck in hand unless I don't have the freight in hand. If I do not have a PO, I'm not going to sell it like I have a PO. And I know some people kind of go back and forth, and I kind of like get your thoughts on it. But I truly believe that, hey, you should let them know it's a quote. Hey, it's something that we're working on. And just because you're thinking from like the carrier rep side of it, or let's say if it's an owner operator calling you and they're kind of expecting, hey, this load is a live load, like this is good to go. And they're kind of planning and things like that. And you don't want to kind of leave them down the hook. So with that being said, Jeff, what are some do's and don'ts with speaking with carriers?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, I want to check out that MC number of the carrier that I'm reaching out to, because I want to make sure, first and foremost, that that organization is an approved carrier, because I want to mitigate my risk, and I want to make sure that I'm not going to put my client's product in jeopardy. Number two, I'm going to be totally transparent. Now, will this be learned by a newbie going in? I don't know. It really all depends on the trainer and the person who put him in that seat, who's teaching those do's and don'ts. I know what those do's and don'ts, and you do too. But you're going to be totally transparent. You're going to talk about, it's a quote, and you know what? I've got a benchmark. If they know what a benchmark is at that time, this is where I need to be. Hey, if you want to be totally transparent. With a customer, whatever, cost plus, or you can do the same thing. Hey, my margins aren't that big. This is a new customer that's just coming on board. I want to try to build a working relationship, a long-term one. Hey, do you work in this? Do you work on the specific lane all the time? Is this something that you like to, move? Is this the type of freight? But you're going to do all that up front to see, if you drill into them, the type of materials they like to move, general freight, or they do this or whatever. So there's so many different things into the do's and don'ts. You just don't want to hand off, but you do want to tell them, this is a quote. I'm trying to build a long-term business relationship with this client. If everything else, if the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed, and they're approved carrier, and you know what they're doing, you want to be honest with you. If it all goes, hey, they do their receiving in the morning and they're shipping in the afternoon. So, if it does go, it's going to go between 1 and 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Please be prompt, be there, whatever. Let's just say that they do accept the quote. So, yeah, there's so many different things. I mean, again, subjective, because we can say all the right things. Yeah. But it may be all the wrong things for another person, because they weren't told to do that. So you may be asking the wrong questions when you should be asking the right ones. If that makes any sense.
100%. No, this is probably the one episode that we're going to agree on almost everything. So I love this. But we could disagree. Like, I love that you have those conversations, and Jeff, for me, okay, so you've already spoken with that carrier. You've gotten your rate. They're whatever. You kind of go from there. Just said, hey, call them when it's kind of ready to go. Are you going to go based off of that, or are you going to kind of put some the what if scenarios? So for me, using your what if scenarios, let's say that truck falls off or something like that. I'm a person, I truly still believe in getting 3 quotes.
Yes,
that's just me. So, like I think that hey, getting 3 quotes is important because let's say hey that truck falls off, or and like you said, you're looking up the MC numbers. I would say if you're for your first shipment, use somebody who's trusted in your system, has run shipments with your company many times. You don't want to like there's so many double brokers out there, and you just don't
Oh
want to
my God,
open up yourself
yes.
to that. Why do that, right? Why do that, right? So for me, I like to get 3 quotes, kind of look at there, and provide the options. Jeff, when you're like you said, you're talking a little bit about cost plus, and you're talking about adding margin. Can you speak to what cost plus is versus what margin is?
Sure. Cost plus is a set figure where you're totally transparent. This is my cost, and in order to control your business and manage it, I have a 15% uptick on that. You're not hiring an individual; you're hiring a team. That's pretty much what I go about and say. Because we know how much it costs to invoice and do all the backroom and docs and all of this, and time is money, right? So. The other thing is margin. You just throw margin on that. You give it to the customer and you tell it this is the rate that we're going to get it for. So there's two different scenarios there. The other thing too. Let's get back. One thing that we missed is that not just the MC number, but you have to find as a person who's moving the freight for the first time. Let's call it a full truckload. You want to know the value of that shipment because when you're reaching out to those carriers, if their Accord certificate says, cargo liability, cargo insurance, 100,000, you need 250,000. You got to make sure that they have that insurance to cover that freight, and get that, that update. Hopefully you have some type of a TMS or a carrier base that you can go in that has all of this information in there so you can cross-reference to make sure that they have the proper amount of insurance to take care of your customer's load, because God forbid if something goes wrong, you don't want that on your shoulder. So yeah. So
As he says here, like dot the T's dot and dot dot the I's and cross the T's. That's so important.
Exactly. And the thing is, too on those quotes when you go out. I mean, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but yeah, you want to get those 3 quotes because what you're trying to do is keep everybody honest. Why is somebody $800 more than another guy? And then you have to be like, well, why is that guy less? But I mean, we used to do reverse bidding as well, and put it out there for second bids, and it was all automated and stuff like that. Didn't tell who was doing what, but again, that's too far advanced. Yeah, so you want to ask those questions, especially if you see a huge gap in your quotes. You want to be thinking you don't want to immediately go, it's $800 cheaper, I'm going to jump on it. No.
I always take the middle rate. I'm sorry. I always kind of take the middle because like, hey, I could always get the lower guy. I could always get the higher guy, right, and kind of factor into there. And for me, Jeff, what you're just talking about that cost plus and like the margin, the conversation people have is, for me, I've always been an all-in type of person. I've never dealt with fuel, and I remember I dispatched like for 2 years as flatbed, and flatbed I've never seen. It could be different for other people, but I've never seen flatbed with fuel. It's always been an all-in rate, and that's the way that we kind of operate. So I like to go with all-in rates, and the reason why I do that, Jeff, is my pitch, not necessarily pitch to the customer, but my kind of add-on value add to the customer is that what I tell you is what you're going to see on your bills, what your accounting team is going to see. There's not going to be having to do any calculations or anything like that. But there are some companies out there that work directly more assets that do that, plus the fuel and things like that. But for me, I like the clean billing. I want to have that all-in rate, and that's what it is. Okay, then we can go ahead and get it done. Cost plus, I think we've had this discussion when I first came on Sales Chatter, you, Dan, and I, and talking about it. And I've never done cost plus. But I can see where cost plus, especially during the pandemic and everything like that, I can see where there's a huge benefit for that. Right.
Yeah, if it's dedicated. I mean, that's
dedicated, not a one-off.
If it's dedicated, you're not going to do it on the one is. But here's the thing, okay? I'm the shipper. You are the service provider, okay? And you just gave me an all-in rate. So I'm saying, well, Ryan, I have a fuel surcharge, and right now it's 46%. Okay. What are you going to say to that? So now you have to be quick thought up there. You're going to say, okay, so in order for me to move this freight, he wants me to use his fuel surcharge scale, right?
Yeah.
Now you got to know your base. Now you got to know your margin. So if you throw everything together, a smart shipper is going to say, that's not 46% on whatever.
Yeah, well, here's okay. So let's take a couple steps. Yeah, yeah. Let's take a couple steps behind that. So we
Yeah,
haven't presented the rate yet, right? Like I said, I like to get an all-in rate. So let's role play here. Toronto to Chicago, $1,200 is the truck rate.
yeah.
For me, if it was a brand new customer, I'd probably mark it up maybe to 1350, 1400. 150 $200, right? Brand new person kind of coming in. That's kind of like where I would kind of go in. So I would kind of lead with that because I don't know, Jeff. I believe that especially if it's your first customer and you kind of want to get some numbers on the board and kind of get the momentum as we're kind of talking about here, I go a little bit skinny on the first one to kind of get in because you got to remember and that's where you're having that conversation with the customer first. I'm sorry, the prospect
Right,
of
but remember, you're setting the standard now. You have to keep that.
Yes. Yep.
You're setting the standard. So if most shippers, right, they go out and they hunt and they're trying to get the best quote, and then you come in pretty low, right? Well, you're going to probably get that lane consistently now if you found out how many times, but you're always going to have that small margin on top of that. So now that's when your value comes in, right? But you're a newbie, so you don't have that value. You're basing what you're doing as a newbie is you're using your company's value, not your own, and that's what you're selling, right? As time goes on, you're now creating your own value, not your company's value, because you're the one that's dealing with your customers, not your company per se, but you as an individual who's selling them and saying, come and move your freight with me. So there's a lot of different things here where they're like, wow, they tested Ryan out and you came in with that low margin and they're like, I only told them I had one, but I have 30 of them that move. We're going to start moving that with you. Well, you just cut your nose off to spite your face on that, right? Because you came across and you gave them a great rate because you wanted to get them on board, but all of a sudden they threw you the bone. You took it, ran off of them, man.
So here's my rebuttal to that. So like I said, I got the truck the cost at 12. If I've got I remember how I said earlier that their truck in hand versus PO in hand is two completely different things.
Right.
So that means let's say they want to give me that 20 and just coming back to your situation. I've got 20 loads, Jeff. I'm gonna get my rate down to like 900 to $1,000, and I'm gonna get it done. I'm gonna get it done from there. So I have the loads in hand. That's where I can start buying capacity. For before when I'm selling, I'm trying to get quotes. I'm trying to buy quotes. I'm trying to see what the market is adding, kind of go from there. So the conversation is different with the truck in hand versus the POs in hand. So I love that. I love those kind of situations because, hey, you want to give me 30? You want to give me 30 at $1,300, $1,400? Yeah, I'm gonna get some guys at $850 to $900 because I know I'm buying capacity. I'm in the driver's seat at this point.
Now we pump it up a little bit, right? It's like it's not Ryan Transportation that's picking up the shipment, that the shipper's going to say, hey, listen, just want to dot the I's. He's a smart shipper now. Want to dot the I's and cross the T's. What carrier's coming in to pick up for me? Okay, so that first load, ABC Trucking Company comes in, but now he just told you he has 30. So now you're going out to a different carrier.
So no, I have the conversation with that guy first, with the first carrier first.
But you don't know that there's 30 there. You only know that there's one.
Yes. Sorry.
Okay. You only know that there's one. That's what you sold that carrier. But all of a sudden, 2 weeks later, that shipper just happens to sit down and talk to people and saying, hey, listen, this guy really came up. He wanted the business really bad. What do you think? You want to give him another 25 on this? We run that pretty constant. You want to give him a college trial, and then all of a sudden they got 30. Well, now you're going from ABC company because maybe that carrier was just the right carrier that only had maybe one or two trucks that run that lane. But now there's consistency in there. So now you're changing up the carrier, and now ABC becomes DEF. And now you're sending DEF in, and the smart shipper is going to say, I really like that ABC. How come DEF is coming in now? you know, and if they're really smart, they're going to know that you just reduce the costs on that carrier. You know, you're going to have a comeback on it. There's a lot of smart shippers out there.
I don't think okay, so I gotta disagree with this completely because I've never the customers that I work with, they don't care about the name on the actual physical truck because I've laid those groundworks from the beginning that hey, I'm a broker. You're not gonna see Ryan's Trucking coming to pick up those trucks, right? So there's many ways around it, right? Like there's the conversation that you can be like, hey, we've got some interline carriers, these guys do our pickups, and then we got another carrier, they do the long haul, and then we got another delivery driver in the area that kind of does that. So I find like I've never had customers to me, Jeff, and the smart shippers. They just care, and even Tony Darnell said it on Hold My Beer too. Is like he just cares that his stuff just picks up and delivers on time. He doesn't care about. He's like once that picks up, don't give him a call. You know, leave him the hell alone. Don't bug him. Don't bug him until it gets delivered. So I'm not that type of person to. I be honest. I've been here 6 years. I never had a customer say, "Hey, why didn't this company pick up?" or anything like that. Because it's about being transparency. And you know, if somebody was to say that to me, "Hey, why isn't ABC Trucking picking up?" They don't have capacity, you know, they don't have the availability for it. So are we gonna push this shipment so I could send in a preferred carrier, or are we gonna get this done with the same kind of service levels? Because we're just trying to keep it easy for these guys. It's gonna be a one pick, one drop. We're not doing no multi stops or meat inspections or anything like that, right? We're doing a one pick and one drop, right? So that's where you gotta have that conversation. So for me, I've never with the customers always kind of being transparent with them, saying, hey, we're sending a truck in today at this time. This is who's picking up, you know, and that's simply
and that's good. Yeah, you know, I'm just throwing that out there because
yeah.
I'm just curious because a lot of the shippers, they want to protect their products and they want to make sure. You mentioned double brokering. I mean, we all don't want that, right? So if you're saying A is coming in there and B shows up, then you got a problem, right? You know,
Yeah, but they don't ask though.
I know. For me,
Yeah.
when I dealt with carriers, I wanted to know power unit number, trailer number. What am I going to see on the door? Okay.
And that means that you're doing a high value of shipments,
not,
right? You're high value, right? So I think like when you're figuring out your niche and things, that you got to figure out what those because I think where you were like Panasonic, you guys are moving TVs. Like let's say we're just moving like freaking like cereal, right? Like you don't care to get the VIN number, you don't care to get the power only. It's cereal at the end of the day, right? So it just depends on the company.
Want to mitigate, want to reduce the probability of claims out there. It doesn't matter what it is; it's just a pain in the ass to go through that claim. So they want to ensure that, they're seeing who they want to see what was said,
Well, here's the thing too, and here's where you get to pick and choose as well. Like, I'll be honest with you, Jeff, if somebody's being that pain in the ass to me, like asking me all these questions, I'd be like, is it really worth it for me? Like, is it, because are they going to I'm thinking about those 30 loads down the road. Are they going to be a pain in the ass, like always kind of bugging me for these simple things when it's like, hey, it's just a simple one pick, one drop that we've done so many times, and I know like people talk about claims. I don't want to get claims too much because like the amount of claims that kind of happen is very minimal. I've only had 2 claims in my career, and they were because I use an LTL carrier. It was never on a truckload or anything like that, right? Like they went to different things like that. So I think like if I have a customer, it's a great conversation to have. If I have a prospect that's getting too much, or they're kind of calling me every 5 minutes, or kind of doing different things, I'm like, this is just not going to be worth my time, especially if we're
I love those kind. I'm being honest. I love those kind, and here's why. Because they're trying to be congruent with you. They're trying to push you because if you can relate to all the problems that they've had in the past, that's the reason why they're asking all these questions. It's really going to open up a door, and it's going to now make you think, okay, what if scenarios? What else is this person going to ask me down there? So you know what? I'm going to write these things down. I'm going to talk to him, and I'm going to iron out all these issues up front, so that we don't have to worry about those questions. If you already know what those possible questions are, you can have them answered and saying, okay, every time I send, you're going to have this carrier, here's the value, here's this, here's that, boom, 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 all the way down this list. And it could be a list of 40 different things, if you are able to put yourself in that shipper's seat and understand why he's doing this. You will be better off basically to say, you know what, this guy's bending over backwards. The revenue or the possible revenue that you're going to get on this. So I'm going to make my life easier. Let's chat. Let's discuss. why you're asking all these questions. And it's just going to build a long-term business relationship. And if he stutters or she stutters, then it's not going anywhere, then it's one and done, but you have to call them out,
You have a comment.
They're calling
And
you,
you're
call
like
them
the segue king today, Jeff, because what you actually just said is actually our topic for tomorrow's tomorrow's episode. Sorry, we're talking about SOPs tomorrow. Talking about, hey, you won the load and everything like that. So, it's an amazing episode we have because we're able to kind of give the different points and views of basically going after that first customer. So, Jeff, leave the viewers with some thoughts of basically going for quoting, having no negotiations, talking to your manager, different things like that of today's episode.
Yeah. If you're just getting into this industry and you're on the sales side and you're working for a brokerage, listen carefully and ask many questions. And even in the interview process, are you going to be there for me? I'm new. How are you going to help me to be a better person, or the person you want me to be sitting in the seat? Tell me the steps. I think that's the biggest thing, because before you jump into hot water, man, you want to know if it's going to be lukewarm or boiling, So ask those questions, interview the interviewee or interviewer, I should say, and find out where they stand, because that's either going to make you or break you. If they leave you and let you sit there forever and don't help, you're in trouble. So please ask those questions. Hopefully some of the stuff that we gave you today will enable you to do that, but you will be better off.
Exactly. And it's the last thing I'll kind of say is sales is an up and down. You get hit down, you get knocked up, and things like that. And the one big thing, especially again, your first quote, there's a lot of excitement that goes into that. So enjoy that win, because I don't care what anybody says, even getting a quote is a win, especially if you've never had it before, right?
Yeah.
And then you'll learn that, hey, I can double this, I can scale this, and build a business that you want to truly believe. So with that being said, if you found value in this episode, which we definitely do believe that you did, please share, comment with somebody. Let us know your feedback, what you would do if you got your first quote, some things that maybe we missed or something that you definitely agree with. And catch a replay at 12 and 3 p.m. Eastern time on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Like I said, tomorrow we'll be back with another episode on SOPs. So you got that first load already. So what are you going to do next? Right. So with that being said, I'm your co-host, Ryan Mohammed, my amazing man, Jeff Dickinson. We'll see you guys tomorrow.
Have a good day.